actually go in the court and ask who's going to happen and when it's going to happen.
I would say that before the block can happen. Are you sure?
You are gonna.
I'm the only one here.
You look like you're last week.
You don't, miscalculate for the parade happening.
Yeah, there's a lot of logistics things.
Yeah.
And then you're parking on the Madden Street, it's not gonna get another. Are you sure? Well, I'm gonna hang out for another couple hours.
Generally,
The other one, see if something develops.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. First and foremost, welcome to Kenton County, to the Kenton County Administration Hub for our community. We would like to, especially on a beautiful day like this, we want to be brief. So I do want to make sure that we have a chance to speak to allow all of our wonderful guests here to update us on this amazing effort in our Commonwealth. And really, the most important thing for any strong community is public safety, and we're going to hear from our key leaders who are making an impact on that every day. As Chris Coleman, our Kenton County Judge Executive, and I want to make sure we, first and foremost, we want to call on some of our Commonwealth's brightest and really best public law enforcement officials, and making sure that all of the individuals in our community are safe, keeping our families safe, our businesses safe to operate. And really, one of the best people who can do that is Attorney General Coleman. First and foremost, we want to just simply say anyone who's had a chance to really take more than a moment or two with Attorney General Coleman knows it's just as simple as a fine human being and how grateful for his service to this Commonwealth. And in particular, of most importance is that it being a national leader in taking on the drug threat and fighting to keep fentanyl out of the Commonwealth and of our region. And I think finally are the positive impact that Attorney General Coleman, in just his first year in office, has made working on the drug threat and fighting to keep fentanyl out of our entire community. So with that, I'd like to call on Attorney General Coleman and thank him so much for his great work.
Thank you, Judge Coleman. I'm so grateful for the kind words and for you hosting today's discussion. It's also nice to come home to a degree. I'm pleased that the Attorney General's office is based in this building just a few floors above us. So it is nice to join you as a colleague as well in this fight, Judge. This is a dark topic. No one wants to talk about the horrific exploitation of children, not on a beautiful day, not on any day. But as law enforcement elected leaders, those that are on my left and my right, these are people who have taken an oath to do just that, to go to the threat, to protect our kids. It's exactly for this reason that we're gathered here today to applaud leadership. Leadership matters, full stop. And we have seen an outstanding example of that in this particularly challenging issue. You know, for Representative Stephanie Dietz to step into this space with the support of Senator Chris McDaniel, his heft on the Senate end, with the substantive, the anecdotal, with the fire in the belly that is your Commonwealth's attorney here, my colleague, Mr. Sanders. I tell you what, this is an incredible team, again, with fire in the belly to protect our kids. They make protecting our kids a priority, not just words from a podium, but now in law in our statutes here in the Commonwealth. Now we have additional tools to do just that, to protect our kids, thanks to the leadership on my left and on my right. Representative Deet's legislation, which passed unanimously, and pause on that for a moment, in this somewhat divisive era, this passed unanimously. That is advocacy, that is leadership, that is heft to be able to accomplish that. Her willingness to stare directly into the face of evil, the legislation itself is horrific in what it covers, the conduct that it covers. It bans the possession of, and you pause and you almost warn those that are watching this at home to remove kids from the room before we have this conversation. It protects against AI-generated child exploitation material, child sexual abuse material. CSAM is an acronym, we refer to it. And it also makes very clear that the possession of an item known as a child sex doll, is prevented under our statutes here in the Commonwealth. These predators that use this technology, that use these dolls to accelerate their activity, they're not just in the shadows, they are here. We fight them. The men and women on my left and my right fight them every day. These tools will make it more effective, make us more effective in this fight. The new law is working. This is not just academic. The law is working. Last month, our colleagues with the Kentucky State Police announced an arrest and subsequent prosecution of a subject in Metcalfe County, Kentucky for exploitation, including a charge of possession of a child sex doll. It doesn't happen just elsewhere, it happens here across our Commonwealth. It's tragic, and the reality is the exploitation isn't new. The violence we see in this Commonwealth isn't new. If you spend time in Mr. Sanders' office as you walk in, as he spent time with me earlier today, you see covering the wall victims of abuse, victims of homicide, victims of violence. This conduct is not new, but these tools we're seeing are new. And I'm so proud that this Commonwealth is at the top of the list. We are the tip of the spear, so to speak, in getting ahead of the threat. Incredibly pleased because of leadership on my left and my right that we're in that position. Protecting Kentucky's children from exploitation is the job, one of the core priorities of the Attorney General's office. Even before I was sworn in, I announced I was very pleased to create, because of the nature of the threat, create a new position in the Attorney General's office, a Deputy Commissioner for Child Exploitation. And it's a long name, but it was very important that we put the right individual, the right leader in this position, given the gravity of the threat. I was very pleased to appoint the gentleman that will be speaking in just a moment into that role, someone who has spent 2 decades protecting our kids in the Kentucky State Police. Deputy Commissioner Merrill brings these decades of experience and leadership in this space as a nationally known expert. We've also recruited, on a bit of a lighter note, we've also recruited a 4-legged detective. As you'll see, Officer Charity joined us just a couple of months ago. She is what's known as an ESD, an electronic storage detection dog, one of only a handful, one of only 4 actually in our Commonwealth. Our motto, our culture in the Attorney General's office is zealous collaboration. We look for opportunities like using our fellow colleague, 4-legged colleague here, to help agencies large and small as we fight this threat. So Deputy Commissioner Merrill will speak in a moment about our team's innovative tools and how we are zealously collaborating with agencies across our Commonwealth to track down predators. As I said, it's a dark topic and we would prefer not to talk about it. But my friends, as long as we have leaders like those on my left and my right, and now look out, I see our County Attorney, Stacey Tapke, here as well. As long as we have leaders, and as you see in these jobs, the longer you do it, you realize that many of those that do this work stand in the back of the room. The cameras aren't covering the back of the room. We have detectives and officers and deputies that do this work every day, and I applaud them, and I'm grateful for their service. But as long as we have men and women of this caliber that are willing to fight in Frankfurt, men of this caliber to fight here in Kenton County or across our Commonwealth, I could not be more optimistic about us pushing back and protecting our kids. And with that, Judge Nachman, I think I turn it over to you again, sir.
And as Attorney General Coleman referred to, is that State Representative Stephanie Dietz is going to make a few comments about her efforts in this area. And in particular, we just want to say thank you to Stephanie Dietz, because really, and also short term in serving in Frankfurt, has really just been very mature about looking at all the big issues that we're dealing with and making real impacts in the lives of the Commonwealth. So Representative Stephanie Dietz.
Well, thank you. As Attorney General Coleman's referenced, we can't do this alone. So this wasn't just me running a bill. It started with Rob Sanders contacting me in 2023 and saying we have a problem. And the bill didn't go anywhere in 23, but then last summer during the interim, picked up where I left off, had it redrafted, and then after the election, I received a telephone call from Attorney General-elect Coleman saying this is a priority for me. And we spent the interim working with the Kentucky State Police, with Senator McDaniel. And so it takes a group effort. And when we finished the first draft of the bill, Kentucky State Police said, can we meet with you? And we said, we think we can make it a little bit better. And they did with the AI portion. So it's a team effort when we do something like this. It's a team effort to get your colleagues on board, to vote for it. It's got to come out of committee. It's got to come out of the House. And then I could put it in the trusted hands of Senator McDaniel and know that he was going to see this through on the other side. There's nothing more important than protecting our kids, and I know that this is a tool in the toolbox for our law enforcement, those on the front lines, and for our prosecutors. So I'm just grateful that we have such a great team that we can work with. And as to the point about Metcalfe County, when I saw that article, my colleague in Metcalfe County sent me the article, and I was able to text it to my group and say we made a difference, because that's the first time that we saw that there had been a charge on possession of a child sex doll. So it really did make a difference, and we know that this is going to save children's lives. So thank you.
It is very clear when you hear State Representative, sorry, Stephanie, State Representative Dietz comment about this is not only the thoughtfulness, tough, but with humility and compassion. Another amazing leader in our community, Senator Chris McDaniel, is doing that as well with impactful legislation for our community and some of the most impactful in the region's in modern history. Senator McDaniel's work on behalf of families and children made Kenton County and Northern Kentucky a better place to live in, really for decades to come. Senator McDaniel.
Thank you, Judge, and thanks to everybody for being here today. First of all, Attorney General Coleman, thank you for your leadership and your ongoing diligence in this effort. Representative Dietz for your work on it, and obviously has been instrumental to our Commonwealth's Attorney, Rob Sanders, who first brought this forward. You know, one of the great things about Rob is he doesn't just deal with what is a crime. He deals also with what ought to be a crime. Because when you stop and think about what is the nature of what is a criminal act, it's things that take things away from other people. It's things that don't execute on our concept of justice here in the Commonwealth and the United States. And sometimes there are certain things via technology or otherwise that simply didn't exist when laws were thought of, when the Constitution was thought of, and our Commonwealth's Attorney, Rob Sanders, is absolutely on the forefront of helping us to identify those. And so, Rob, thank you. And of course, to the Budget Review Subcommittee for Justice and Judiciary, Shelley Funky-Fromeyer. No dollars get appropriated inside of the justice budget without her ongoing help, and certainly appreciate everything on this. And you know, we've heard a lot about the mechanics of this bill. We've heard a lot about some of the need for this bill. But at the end of the day, it really boils down to there are unfortunately deviants in society, and those deviants would prey on those who are powerless, those who are innocent, those who are youthful, those who simply don't know what kind of evil does exist in this world. And the changes that we make in this space and in many others will protect those who should not have to worry about whether or not their image will be artificially exploited for the gratification of others. Those who should not have to worry about whether the deviant down the street is using artificial means to accelerate their path in a very negative manner. And it's laws like this that will help stop those things in their infancy, and it's laws like this that will protect society at large. And I thank every one of you for letting me be part of helping that get through.
Well, our next speaker, this gathering really would not be complete without hearing from the man at the front lines putting criminals away. Very simply, we'd like to introduce the most important part is CWA Sanders, Commonwealth Attorney Rob Sanders, who, by the way, quietly represents the team. When you think about the Attorney General's office and our local Commonwealth Attorney's office, how fortunate we are that as tough as they are to really keep us all safe. So, Rob Sanders.
Thank you. And General Coleman gave everyone a trigger warning for the subject material. You should just know that anytime I speak, it's usually going to be a trigger warning. We had a problem in Kenton County. We had 3 individuals that had child-sized sex dolls shipped in to our jurisdiction inside of about 2 years. And the problem was they weren't illegal in and of themselves, yet we were 3 for 3 in catching those individuals with child sexual assault material stored on their electronic devices when we went in and did the search warrants. But we had to battle the litigation because the defense would argue that it was not illegal to have a child-sized sex doll. So we had actually lost one of the cases on a suppression motion. All the evidence got suppressed and a child predator went free. We were able to beat the other 2 suppression motions, so the other 2 went to prison, but we were having a problem that we shouldn't have to litigate this hard to prove to a court that we know that someone that has a child-sized sex doll will also be preying upon children, will also have child pornography in their possession. We know it's there, we just have to legally be able to go get it. So that's when I approached Representative Dietz about filing a bill that was probably the most common sense bill I've ever proposed. And I was stunned when it didn't go anywhere the first year that she sponsored the bill. But I tell you what, she called me sooner than I could call her, and she was just motivated like any other legislator I'd ever seen who had their bill shot down. She's like, we are going to get this passed the next year. And the next year, not only did we get General Coleman on board, which made a huge difference in helping to motivate the legislature to do what was right and move this bill forward, but then we got Senator McDaniel on board, and anytime you have the A&R chair carrying a bill for you in the Senate, you have a great chance of getting everyone's attention and getting their support. And it's really given us the tools we need. It's given our county police, like Detective Kyle Wallace, that's in the back, he handles these cases at the investigation stage. It's given him the tools he needs. The fine detectives like the one we hear with the e-crimes dog that will go in, that will find all these horrific materials and bring these people to justice, put them in jail, and give the prosecutors across the Commonwealth of Kentucky the tools we need to bury these folks under the prison where they belong. So thank you, Senator McDaniel, Senator Fromeyer, which these 2 also deserve kudos because prosecutors just enjoyed the best budget we've had in my entire 18 years as Commonwealth Attorney. This, for the first time, we are handing out raises as opposed to telling our employees about layoffs, and it makes a huge difference when you can retain experienced prosecutors. So thank you for the budget, but for what we're here on today, thank you, Representative Dietz and both senators, for all of your support, and this is a great thing for Kentucky. Thank you.
We next, very exciting also, the Attorney General commented about Jeremy Merrill, who's really the one we want to hear from as well, who's daily working on behalf of our Commonwealth, and the individual who's leading the AG's effort in this area, Jeremy Merrill, as the really Deputy Commissioner.
First, let me say, I promise to be brief. It is an honor and a privilege to serve in this position, so thank you for your trust in that. As said, I'm the Deputy Commissioner of the Counter Exploitation Office. So the Attorney General tasked me with the target hardening the Commonwealth. And what that means is making it more difficult for predators to exploit our children. We accomplish this effort through our Special Victims Unit, which two of our detectives are in here today to represent that. The Special Victims Unit is part of the Kentucky Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force. They every day investigate human trafficking and child exploitation cases. In addition to that, the SVU offers technical assistance and training to any law enforcement agency in the Commonwealth. We believe that makes us a force multiplier. We also provide community outreach opportunities and programs, and we give educational presentations to schools, parents, and other public organizations. You've heard a lot of stuff today about the House bill that Representative Deeds sponsored. I'm going to add one more thought. This particular bill puts Kentucky at the technological forefront in combating child sex dolls and computer-generated CSAM, which is child sex abuse material. This legislation will be a model for other states moving forward. And as a person who was in the trenches, as a person who was supervising the unit for the controlled delivery of a child sex doll in Kenton County in my time with the state police, I'm very, very grateful for its passage. Now on to why are y'all really here. As you also heard, our newest SVU detective is pretty special. So she is one of 4 electronic storage detection dogs in the state. Boone County has 1 and KSP has the other 2. But Charity is a wonderful addition to our family. She is a rock star on search warrants. She can find any device that's capable of storing electronic data. So think cell phones, SD cards, micro SD cards, external hard drives, laptops. She can find things. Micro SD cards, size of a dime, she can find that. So we're excited to have her. That comes in useful for our child exploitation cases, but any case for law enforcement that involves digital evidence. So Charity and our handler, Detective Guffey, are here today, and they've had several successful deployments already for both the Department of Criminal Investigations and for other agencies. So there is a request for her help quite a bit. So that's another way where we're helping out the Commonwealth. Once again, could not be more honored to serve in this role. I will turn it back over to the Attorney General for any questions. Thank you.
So there's a tremendous amount of talent and expertise on my left and on my right here. So let's open it up for any questions you may have. It is a dark topic, but look at the talent, look at the enthusiasm, look at the fire in the belly for tackling this, whether on the legislative front. Thank you, Representative Deeds and your team. Whether it is on the law enforcement front. Having this dog in the Attorney General's office, one of only 4, this was a product of creative problem solving by our new Deputy Commissioner. We have such talent in the fight with us. So I couldn't be any more honored to serve as Attorney General with talent like this. So let's open it up to any questions that you may have. Sir?
Well, I have a question not related to this, but Pulaski County Schools is using the website and social media to advocate for voting no on Amendment 2. Has your office received any complaints against this? Where did this stand as far as legality goes? And supporters of Amendment 2 claim this is against the law and misuse of tax dollars.
Well, this shows what a Swiss Army knife the Attorney General's office can be at times from one topic to another. I'm familiar with the post in Pulaski County. I reviewed it earlier today. It's pretty unambiguous. It's pretty crystal clear. We as an office are reviewing, our team, our lawyers are reviewing the post, we're reviewing the law. If indeed there's a violation of state law, we know what the facts are. We're looking at the law. We will act with our partners accordingly. On a similar matter, our office sent a letter just this week, end of last week, to CREF, the Kentucky Registry of Election Finance, responding to a somewhat related request for legal representation. There is a lawsuit challenging CREF's opinion on the ability of local party committees to participate in that campaign, to expend resources to participate in that campaign. We, the Attorney General's office, refused to represent CREF in that matter because we believe that we cannot act when there is a violation of the First Amendment. And so it continues to become more and more interesting as we get towards our Commonwealth voting on Amendment 2. So thank you for the question. Anything related to the subject matter here today?
I have one, it's to you or lawmakers. You talked about, obviously, the difficult nature of this topic, but do you think that maybe the passage of this bill will lay the groundwork to address other difficult things in Kentucky? I mean, I'm sure there's other difficulties legally and judicially that maybe you want to address moving forward.
Well, I would challenge the premise of your question just a bit. I've been in this office for 8 months, and the men and women who serve on the third floor in our General Assembly dove in the last session to tackle myriad challenges, public safety and otherwise. I'm the AG, so my focus is in the public safety lane. I was enthused. I could not have found more enthusiastic partners on the third floor of our Capitol, not only in this space, but in providing us prosecutors, the budgetary resources we needed, providing the Attorney General's office the tools we needed to do things from hiring and retaining the best talent to making sure that our detectives had appropriate body armor. So we are, as I said, this is a dark topic. We're here to celebrate a win. I will say in this space, in this CSAM space, and I'll tee up some of my colleagues to speak to this. When I was in the previous role, when I served as the United States Attorney for the western portion of our state, I felt like at times we could shut down our office and prosecute nothing but these offenses and be busy. Particularly during 2020, as we saw a significant uptick, and the data says with our kids' eyes on screens and the inability to keep our eyes as parents on them at all times, that we saw an uptick. We saw predators coming into our homes using these devices. We saw predators using the dark web to deal with some of the most horrific conduct as an adult, as someone who spent almost 20 years in law enforcement, I've ever been exposed to. So that threat is growing. At the same time, and Judge Coleman referenced this, we exist in an environment where as little as one pill can kill our sons and daughters. The legislature, these prosecutors on my left and my right are looking at this challenge. They provided us through the Opioid Abatement Commission tools to tackle, to start pushing back on the treatment, on the prevention side, to tackle much of the damage done by overdoses here in our Commonwealth. And so I'm gonna let some of my colleagues speak to that, but I would just question back to the premise of your question. These are leaders on my left and my right. They face difficult choices every day, and I couldn't be more pleased to stand with these men and women. Anything to add on that front, or next question? Yes, sir.
Attorney General Coleman, just talk to me about the importance of this push to stiffen penalties. You mentioned kind of these sweeping changes we've seen, whether it's stiffening penalties around fentanyl, or also with this creating new laws, the bill today, just the importance of making this push, it seems like, over this last legislative session.
Well, let's try to be smart about it. We go to where the threats are, and we believe that deterrence matters. We believe that punishment matters. And we believe that when you stiffen penalties in some of the areas where you do the most harm, that it has a larger deterrent effect when applied, and we believe that punishment is warranted. We believe that you take the most violent out of these communities, you incapacitate them, and that keeps our neighborhoods, our families, our kids safe. But I'll let some of my colleagues speak to that if they'd like to. Appreciate the question. You follow up, or you good?
Just one more. Talk to me about the new four-legged detective, just the importance that she brings to maybe filling a gap, or maybe just a need in the research.
Yeah, I want the Deputy Commissioner to come up and speak to this, because Judge Coleman and I were speaking about this earlier. Force multiplier is the term that we apply to her, our colleague, because when you're looking for a device as small as a thumb drive, you're looking for something like this or a collection of these in a house. Talk about the force multiplier being able to send that dog in that will key in, not only if it's hidden under something, if it's hidden in ceiling tiles. Talk about man-woman detective hours used to find it. Sometimes we might not even put our hands on it. Some of the most horrendous conduct imaginable. This dog helps us to find it so that we can put those offenders away and away from our families. But I want the Deputy Commissioner to, do you have an anecdote that you can offer in terms of efficiency?
It just greatly increases the efficiency. So you can picture a room that's filled with banker boxes. Let's say 100 banker boxes, and you're looking for something that's the size of a micro SD card. That dog can alert and tell you which box to look in. So it saves some time there. It also assures that we don't miss anything. Because a lot of times these folks, these bad guys and girls, will tape that SD card, as the Attorney General mentioned, to the top of a ceiling tile or underneath a desk drawer or various other places. And Charity can find that. And I think if you stick around later, we'll do a little demonstration to give you an idea of what we're talking about. But increases the speed and efficiency, and then make sure we don't miss anything.
our search.
So given that a demonstration's been offered, we've completely lost our audience now. Yes, sir.
I did a story recently, and she was actually just graduating high school. She was still a minor. And someone from another school, also a minor, had used her image to create child porn. And I guess, so I'm wondering, in this legislation, how would you handle a minor doing, is there a difference there? Because there was nothing in the jurisdiction in Ohio that covered this. The police couldn't do anything about it. And so with this new law, how would it handle a situation like that? Because young people do stupid things.
They do, and I'd like for Rob Sanders to join me here in a second. Prosecutorial discretion is a concept that we look at every case uniquely, every case and the facts on their face, and so it is hard hypothetically to address what that scenario might look like. But I think Mr. Sanders can speak to, as we're continuing to see across the Commonwealth, kids' use of images, kids' use of these devices, and it's not rare for me in speaking to a Rotary Club or a group of kids to pull this out. And I'm always talking about the risk of one pill can kill, but I seldom miss the opportunity to point this out and say this is the most dangerous item in your home for myriad reasons, to include the fact that once those images exist, they're durable, they're extant forever, and we have a new generation that doesn't fully appreciate the impact of what that looks like. And so we need to increase awareness. I will tell you, not addressing your question on all fours, we have to do a better job increasing awareness of what those risks are, that there could potentially be penalties, about what those outcomes can be to young people if they're playing around with these devices. But Mr. Sanders, you may have something you want to offer to that.
The answer to your question is very nuanced and would be very fact-specific given the situation that the prosecutors would be confronted with. But the shortest answer is that, more importantly, when an adult does that, and we have plenty of adults that have taken a child's image, a photo of a child's head, and put it onto pornographic images and started creating child porn in that fashion, it would cover that without a doubt. And it would allow us to take that person off the streets. It would allow us to search their residence, search their digital devices, find all the other child pornography that they will surely have. But in the situation that you address, where it is a child who is perpetrating these acts, it would depend on a number of different issues in the case, whether it be the child's age, are they close to 18, will they be 18 before the courts can do anything with them. In Kentucky, child defendant cases, juvenile defendant cases start in the county attorney's jurisdiction. They're the ones that handle juvenile court. It could stay there. If the child was close to turning 18, it could be transferred to adult court to be tried as an adult if those circumstances were appropriate. More importantly, however, because the AI-generated child pornography is now child pornography, even if it's something generated by AI as opposed to an actual image of a child, it can be addressed. Now, most importantly, it doesn't matter nearly as much whether it's addressed in juvenile court or whether it's addressed in adult court. What matters the most is that it is addressed and a stop is put to it before anything gets out of control, before any children make stupid decisions or unfortunate decisions based upon what they're now confronted with. It's something that gives tools to both Commonwealth attorneys and county attorneys to address the situation instead of a defense attorney just arguing that this is an AI-generated image, so it's not illegal. So I hope that answers your question, even though I think a specific situation like you're talking about would require a lot more details. Thank you.
We got time for one more, I think. If there is one.
Yes, sir.
Is there any publicly available data or figures that can kind of speak to the scope of the problem? And if so, where can we find it?
And we can certainly follow up with that. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, NCMEC, who is a nonprofit and a quasi-governmental entity, is a great resource. They're a great partner as we deal with the gravity of this threat, the sheer scope of this threat. They're based in Alexandria. Their website is a great resource, I think, for the National Institutes for Justice puts out statistics, but I think in terms of sheer efficiency, NCMEC is probably the best resource for you as to the gravity of the threat. I'm loath to offer what your takeaways should be, but from where we stand, if there are two things that you're sharing with your audience, one of them is just despite the challenge, the darkness, the divisiveness, that we have some incredible leaders in this Commonwealth that are willing to step into it, like Representative Deeds, like Senator McDaniel, like our Commonwealth Attorney, Ms. Chanders, who originated this idea, the need to tackle this. But the second maybe is more important, and that is the gravity of this threat. The fact that as parents, the gravity of what this can do, the fact that there are predators, this is not the prosecutor beating the podium, this is the reality of a dad. There are predators, we can lock our doors, we can turn on ADT, we can pull out the Ruger and put it on the bedside table, but if your kids are on these devices, you are throwing open the doors to your home to the world. Not just to Northern Kentucky, not just to the Commonwealth, you are throwing open the doors of your home to the world. And I cannot emphasize enough the need to be diligent. It's impossible to stay looking over your kids' shoulders at any time. It's a real challenge, but I would encourage you, there are great resources out there. The Attorney General's office has resources in terms of educationally. The Operation Parent is a great nonprofit based just down the road at I-71, has some great resources on how to engage with your kids, how to talk about this stuff earlier than we should. But I would also, NCMEC, National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, is a great resource as well. I thank you for covering this incredibly important topic. Thank you for coming. Godspeed.
We're gonna let them exit, and then we'll set up a demonstration for charity if you guys are interested.